What is up there, YouTube? This is J-Man Time, and today I have yet another video on yet another cancelled weapons project, this time from the nation of Poland. And this weapon system here was actually a series of experimental weapons platforms vehicles that could have been the next generation of Polish light tanks and Polish-made infantry fighting vehicles. And that cancelled weapons project is the Polish WPB Anders, also known as the Anders Multiple Combat Platform, which were developed between the years of 2008 and 2011 and technically cancelled in the year of 2016. Now, this was a series of two experimental armored fighting vehicles that were meant to replace some of the older Soviet-era combat vehicles that were still in service with the Polish armed forces in the late 2000s and early 2010s, namely the old Soviet-era BWP-1 and BWP-2, which were the Polish version of the Soviet BMP-1 and BMP-2 infantry combat vehicles. Now, this project was developed by the Polish Obram Arms Manufacturing Conglomerate / Company, also known in English as the Research Development Center for Mechanical Applications, now known today as the Polish Armaments Group, also known as the PGZSA, which is the largest manufacturer of Polish armaments, Polish weapon systems being used by the Polish armed forces today. But back in the year of 2008, they had unveiled two armored fighting vehicles that could have been useful to both the Polish armed forces and as an export vehicle to countries that purchase weapons or buy weapons from the nation of Poland. For example, the Ukraine, for example. Now, the first version of the WBP Anders was known as the light tank variant, also known as the WBP Anders Medium Modular Light Tank. And this project was first unveiled between the years of 2008 and 2010, with the first prototype being tested in the year of 2011. This experimental light tank was armed with one 120mm Polish-made RUAG CT main gun, which was meant to mimic the main gun used on the German Leopard 2 tanks that were later purchased by Poland later in the 2000s and early 2010s. It was also fitted with it could also be fitted with one Polish-made 12.7mm WKMB-8 heavy machine gun, which is a Polish 50 caliber machine gun, and one Polish experimental 40mm GA-40, also known as the GA-2000, which was a Polish experimental automatic grenade launcher. Or it could be fitted with the American Mark 19 grenade launcher, which Poland also uses, which actually became one of the standard grenade launchers used in the Polish armed forces. Altogether, the light tank variant had a weight of 35 tons, or 77,000 pounds. Its armor was extended as being a Stanag 4569 level 3 to 5, and it had a maximum speed of 80 kilometers per hour or 50 miles per hour in a crew of at least 3 to 4, at least for the light tank version. At least two of these light tanks were built between the years of 2008 and 2011, and they were tested between the years of 2010 and 2011. But the light tank was not the only version of this vehicle. Later in the same year of 2011, an infantry fighting vehicle variant was unveiled. This version had a different armament, one 30mm ATK Mark 44 Bushmaster 2 autocannon. Also was fitted with the same 12.7mm Polish-made WKM-E heavy machine gun and a 40mm grenade launcher. Again, either the Polish experimental GA-40 or the American Mark 19 grenade launcher. And the armor and speed were pretty much the same, but the crew capacity was increased from 4 to 8. And only two of these experimental infantry fighting vehicle versions were manufactured between the years of 2011 and 2016. Now, this project went on for a number of years, from 2008 until it was canceled in the year of 2016. Why it was canceled is not fully known. It was assumed that at the time, Poland did not see any threats, so as a result, the Polish government did not invest in a lot of the newer armored fighting vehicles being developed in Poland. Now, when the Ukraine war kicked off years later in 2022, Poland would actually reinvest in their armaments manufacturing industry. In fact, they later went on to adopt a similar vehicle to this, known as the Polish-made BWMP Borsuk. The Borsuk is the official replacement for the old Soviet-era BWP-1 and BWP-2, or BMP-1 and BMP-2 armored fighting vehicles / infantry fighting vehicles. And this vehicle here was fitted with a 30mm machine gun, very similar to the American Bushmaster that was fitted to the IFV version of the Anders infantry fighting vehicle. Now, if you ask me, this weapon system here, especially the light tank version, was a huge waste of potential. Just imagine what would happen if Poland at least manufactured the light tank version of this vehicle as a standard vehicle for the Polish armed forces and as an export vehicle. It was fitted with a 120mm gun that was meant to mimic the guns used on some main battle tanks like the German Leopard 2 tanks, Leopard A1 and Leopard A2 tanks that are currently being used by the Polish armed forces. The light tank version would have been a useful export to countries that rely on Polish weapons, mostly neighboring countries like, for example, the Ukraine, Romania, and a few other countries that could or would at least buy Polish weapons if this weapon system had been adopted and had been marketed as a light tank for the standard armed forces of NATO, as Poland is a NATO member. But unfortunately, both of these vehicle projects were canceled between the years of 2011 and 2016, and the project has pretty much been forgotten since the year of 2016. The Polish-made WPB Anders medium modular light tank and the WPB Anders infantry fighting vehicle, or modular infantry fighting vehicles, developed between the years of 2008 and 2016. So what do you all think of this? Please tell me in the comment section below. And until next time, this was J-Man Time signing off.